Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review, and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. And today we are fully discussing Winter's Heart, the ninth book in the Wheel of Time. Matt and I, as you know, have been reading this book series, not this book, this series of books for the entirety of 2024. And I think we've really nailed it by reading 9 books in 12 months. That was definitely the original plan.
Yeah, we've not fallen behind. It wasn't one a month. I don't remember that ever being discussed at any point over the last 12 months.
No.
And it's nothing to do with me, being the slower reader and Sam having to wait a couple of weeks after finishing every book for me to finish. That's all hearsay.
You do this thing where you're like, I'm going to read 7 books at a time, and my brain cannot comprehend that.
No. I can do 3. If I go to 4, I
Oof.
can't do it. I can do 3 at the same, well, roughly the same time, as long as they're very different books.
I think 1 is my maximum. Sometimes if I'm reading an indie book, that doesn't have an audio book. For the audio, I'll list something that does have audio. So I'm currently reading an indie book. And I was thinking, should I just start the next Wheel of Time on audio? But I have found if I start listening to the book on audio, I remember 10 times less. My memory of the books is so much worse if I start it on audio. I have to start by reading it.
Right.
Because the beginning of this one.
It's the prologue. The prologue is snow. Is it snow? It's 80, 90 pages, whatever it is.
It was the previous book that I was trying to listen to I was trying to listen to the prologue and was just completely lost. Yeah, the Borderlands people. I was like, "What is happening? I don't know what's going on." So
yeah, very much. Yeah, that was quite a different start point in the last one. As this one, you sort of picked up, I suppose, where we sort of expected. But it's also a case of what he seems to do in the prologue is whatever's in the prologue, or a lot of the stuff's in the prologue, isn't going to be in the book.
Although this time we start with Elaine, don't we? Well, not start with Elaine, but Elaine is very early on.
Yeah, the prologue is more varied, but also I think we started with the White Tower, and then discovering Blackadder in the White Tower.
Yes, that was good. I do like the 3 sisters that we keep following that live in the White Tower.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a big start, but then we didn't get any more White Tower for the whole book, which was a little disappointing, I must admit.
It's one of those things, isn't it? I feel like the White Tower is one of the most interesting plot points, but because there's no Egwene in this book, there's no Egwene at all. We don't get to progress that storyline.
No, there is one scene with Egwene where she's in Teleran Riod with somebody, and they're walking to the 2 rivers, and they're seeing all the changes and how it's much bigger it's grown, and there's all these stone houses with tile roofs and all that. It's no longer the small little market village town that it used to be. But that is it. That's all we get of Egwene. And to me, that was quite disappointing, because we got the ending of the Path of Daggers, where Egwene is finally taking the rebel Aes Sedai and her army to face Elida and the White Tower, and then just radio silence on that front. So I'm assuming Crossroads of Twilight will be a lot more Egwene, but who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, what was your overall view on the book then, Sam?
So, as you know, we are deep in what people consider to be the slog at this point. We're in the section of the books that people think are tough going, that aren't very good, and I've loved them all. And I think Winter's Heart I did really enjoy, and I think that we had it is helped with all the farm adding stuff All the sections in Farm Adding, like, added a star on for me. I feel like I really, really loved those sections. I also really enjoyed the interactions between Rand and Cadswain. I just liked conceptually. I liked the idea of the town where you can't touch the source, like where you couldn't use the one power. I thought that was just conceptually really cool idea. I'm just trying to, so I did enjoy this book. I'm pretty certain that I gave this either a 4 or a 5. I'm going to go on Goodreads right now and double check, because it's been a while since I read this. I'm legitimately going to start the next one like tomorrow.
Fair enough. So my view is, I still enjoyed it. I'm not really feeling the slog, but I do feel I can sort of.
I gave it a 4.
4. Okay. Yeah, I can sort of see points in this book where I was like, what is this bit adding to the story? But there's also a bit that goes, Robert Jordan has got us this far, and there's been so many bits in previous books that have paid off so far in the 9 books we've read, and they've still got a fair number to go, but that that you'll sort of give them a bit of leeway. But there were bits where, or sections of the story where it just didn't feel like there was much happening, and I'm not sure how it progressed anything within the story or character development or anything within it. It just felt like some of it was a little bit extended, but that we may get payoffs in later. And and just like examples of that, like would be Matt and the Illuminator and that whole element. There was sort of no payoff to that. There was sort of this, several parts of a few chapters where he was going back to the Illuminator and trying to convince her to help him and stuff, and then it sort of found another way, and that sort of petered out, and we never heard from her again. And it was kind of a bit like that. But the ending of this book was superb, and Robert Jordan writes superb endings generally, and this was no exception. It was absolutely brilliant, and it certainly brought up the story. I agree with you about Farm Adding. Farm Adding was fascinating, and what was happening there, and the fact you can't channel. And then there's like this, we found out about more about these Terangriel, having a well and a source that you can sort of keep on you without having to reach into the source itself. You can store the source, the one power, with you, which is really a big development that we didn't know about. So that was pretty cool. But the ending was superb, and the ending really blew it out for me. But there was bits in like the whole Perrin Fail at the beginning. I like Perrin, and we've discussed it before. Like, Perrin has been one of my favorite characters throughout this. I think it's a bit different, but this book, I felt it was a little bit wasted on this. And I understand, obviously it's focused on Fail, but we had Perrin and Elias, like the 2 Wolf brothers, and I like how Robert Jordan has written in that they have these like characteristics and these like wolf-like abilities, like this, improved sense of smell, and they can smell people's emotions and feelings as well. And they've got, their eyesight is slightly different. And we know, like, from going back several books, like Perrin was able to like follow a trail of Trollocs by smelling the violence that had previously happened, but he could like smell the trail effectively. And that just leads me to think, well, surely even the snow, Elias has a good chance of following the Shido, as with Matt.
I think, wasn't he in book 2? Wasn't he just using wolves to track the Trollocs? But
he might have been, actually, yeah.
But I think that there's no wolves around in wintertime because of the winter. I think that that's the big issue that he's got, because he does go out to the wolves, doesn't he? But he can't.
Yeah. No, you could be right.
They can't nail it down.
Yeah, I might be getting confused because like the person who was originally, I think it was called like the Sniffer or whatever.
Yeah, Huron.
Maybe that's why I'm
hunting for Huron, our favourite recurring bit.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that he refuses to come back.
So overall, it was decent. It's not my favourite book by any stretch. The ending is one of my favourite endings.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the ending. I really liked the bit with Lan and Rand, like on the rooftops in Farm Adding.
Hmm.
I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Oh, and also the Matt stuff, escaping Abu Dhar. I love the like Jordan's like whole philosophy, which is like, well, if I can have a storyline and then drag it across like 4 books, like Matt leaving Abu Dhar, like Matt's been in Abu Dhar for like 4 books, I feel like, and like there's the bit where they go there to get the Bowl of the Winds in like book 5 or 6, and they don't actually leave with the Bowl of the Winds for like 2 whole books.
It has been a long time. I mean, to be fair, Matt had a book and a half of just obviously under a wall and then recovering, but not fully recovering in that time. But yeah, and I think to just go back to Farm Adding, like another bit in the Farm Adding bit was obviously Rand's like hunting down the Asherman who betrayed him.
That was really good.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And the fact it was in Farm Adding as well just added a different dimension, because like the first scene you see is Rand. I forget which the name of the person that he's first following. And you know it's one of the Asherman, because the way the narration's done.
Yeah.
And then they face off, and they go like he pulls his sword, and you're like, but why aren't you using the one power? Because you haven't that hasn't. You're like this is really odd. Like why are they fighting with swords? Like surely they would just start hurling firebolts at each other or whatever. And then it sort of becomes clearer as to why that is. And I thought that was really sort of fascinating. But also you then see like this other guy's partner. I'm sorry, the names escape me at the moment. Fleeing, and he's sort of in his narration, and he said, you know, that like a couple of the Forsaken had told him to kill Rand, and he says like Mazrim Taim Mahal had told him to kill him, but Moradin had told him just to take his stuff and didn't have to, if you kill him, so fine, just take his stuff. That's more important. It was interesting that you know the Mahal or Mazrim Taim was actually mentioned as having told one of the Ashermen to actually kill him, assuming it was. But it just goes back to like the whole point. We've discussed that several times about Rand trusting Taim to build him an army and not really having any influence over that army.
And here's a great quote from Lews Therin. A man who trusts everyone is a fool, and a man who trusts no one is a fool. We're all fools if we live long enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a great quote.
Yeah. Farm Adding does genuinely, like, the idea of Farm Adding is great. And I'm trying to think of who I can't remember the names of the, like, Deshiva, Corlin Deshiva.
Yeah, he was the leader because he turns up in the end, doesn't he? Because he's actually one of the Forsaken in disguise.
Yeah.
One of the Forsaken has taken his image as Deshiva, which I didn't see coming.
No.
Like, he was always just like far away, seemingly already going mad person, sort of staring into the mid distance. But actually was a Forsaken.
Just hiding the fact that he didn't know anything about the person, so couldn't fake it, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Just pretend I'm going mad.
Yeah. Smart play.
It is quite a smart play. And I think we saw, obviously, Padan Fain, like, how does he keep turning up in the right places?
It feels like he's like there's something going on with him and the Forsaken, isn't there, really? Because, like, is he going to be a new Forsaken? Is he being raised up? But there's something weird. Oh, it's the dagger, isn't it?
It's the dagger. It's the Shadow.
The dagger is
making him touched
weird.
But what I wonder now is, with Shadow Logoth being destroyed, does that make any difference to its impact on the world and the impact it's had on the world or not? And the other thing I was thinking about Padan Fain, because obviously he attacked Rand with a dagger in the last book, maybe the book before.
He slashed the circle scar, didn't he?
Yeah, so he's got another wound. And I was wondering whether there's like some sort of connection between the dagger and the wound that made him be able to track it. But he just keeps turning up and then running away. Seems to be his forte. But he's certainly got some more play in him in the future, and where that's towards the last battle, I don't know. Yeah, it's certainly something more to come.
I feel like we need a leader for the forces of the Dark One at the last battle. And I don't know. I've been having like in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, is the last battle going to be like Mazrim Time and the Forsaken leading the Asherman against the Aes Sedai with Rand, and then like, but now obviously because they've cleansed the male half of the source, that kind of changes the way that I think about that entire thing. But
Yeah.
my thought was like, are we going to have the like? There's going to be a massive epic last battle, and then the actual ending of the books is like a one-on-one sword fight, Rand versus Padam Fane. Like that's where I felt like maybe we were going. Like you know
Okay.
how in Lord of the Rings, the final kind of fist fight at Mount Doom between Gollum and Frodo. Like in my mind, I'm like, is that where we're leading? Like that sort of kind of altercation.
Yeah, I can certainly get that vibe of Padam Fane has an important role to play in this story somewhere, as Gollum had to play in the Lord of the Rings. I can certainly get that vibe in this. So yeah, I can certainly see that. But as to, I don't know, like this is one of my minor gripes throughout this is that the Forsaken don't always feel that threatening.
No.
And like they are obviously all powerful individuals in the one power. And I really liked Lanfear in the previous book because we got to know her a bit better, and she was actually quite conniving and scheming and sort of playing different people off against each other. And my next question is she back?
Yeah, she's Sindain, isn't she?
Yeah, she must be, because like there's this whole like bit about
They
how much
specifically reference
loves her
something.
and love between her and Lucifer, and I was like, well, this is Lanfear. This is whole Lanfear's point. So is she back as Sindain? Is that the So what does that mean for Moraine?
Yeah, because my theory throughout this book was that Moraine was Sindain.
Okay.
Because I was like, Moraine has to come back because it just like I said this before, but it feels wild that Rosamund Pike would sign on for a TV show that she's not going to be in most of it.
Yeah, and narrate the books and then just stop after book 5.
Like, I don't want to look up. Like,
no.
I don't want to look her up.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I feel like I need to look up which book she died in.
Yeah.
Wheel of Time.
I remember might have been. Was it Lord of Chaos? Was it before that? No, Fires of Heaven, maybe.
It's quite.
Feels like it's a few books ago now. 3 or 4 books ago, 5 books ago.
Yeah. Well, there's an easy way to look that up, which is to look up Sindain and see what it says. Because now we know that Sindain is Lanfear. We can look up where she died.
I would always be wary about looking up anything, Sam. You've done this before and fallen foul. So be it on your own head.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think like just we might as well start. Like I didn't see the ending where they actually managed to cleanse the male half. I didn't expect them to succeed. Like throughout, but I was pretty sure they were going to fail. And I was like, what impact will that have? Like, is there going to be some sort of cataclysm somewhere? Because they're drawing in so much power. But the fact they actually succeeded was just like, it opened so many, like, what impact it has on the world, because that's a massive change from what has been the case for an age. Like, this is the male half is, tainted. And now it's not, or seemingly not. And Shadow Lagoth has been destroyed, and it's I thought we're gonna have all this like draining of power, and something's gonna go wrong. Like, we had like Nynaeve struggling to physical exertion of just continue to support and draw that much power, even with her immense strength. Was just, I was like, can this actually work? And it seems to have done. I mean, obviously, Rand and Nynaeve haven't come back, but if it does, do the people who've already started going mad just stay as mad as they were?
That's an interesting thought, because we haven't seen anyone, have we? Like,
no, No, we
we
haven't had
saw a
that.
tiny bit of aftermath.
Yeah, with a couple of Asherman. And what I loved about the ending as well is that we got a real clear line of sight of the male half and the female half working together, and the power of the two sides combined overpowered each of the Forsaken in their turn. And we saw a little bit, and we discussed it previously a little bit in the last book, or maybe the one before, I can't remember now, where one of the Ashermen heals, or helps to, not heal, but helps to partially heal Rand. And you got the yellow sister, Sumiko, who was like, oh, can you show me what you did, how you did it? And there was like this connection of like a bit of working together. And now we've got Ashermen who are bonded as warders to Aes Sedai, and
I really
the
like
power.
that.
Yeah, and the power you've got of them generating, their circles of three, a couple of Aes Sedai and an Asherman together, are just seemingly immensely powerful. So that was nice to see that actually works. And the other bit I'd say is Nynaeve is. We haven't had really any of her viewpoints in the last two books. I think she has a tiny bit in this book. She has nothing in the other books, but she's present all the time. And like the impact she has on this series, on the storyline, is huge. Like, she's just cleansed the power with Rand, like, because she's immensely powerful. She healed where they got pubic coughs. Yeah, she healed Logain, and then
Stilling from Logain.
Stilling, thank you, that's the word.
Yeah. Gentling, if it's a man.
Yeah, so she managed to like figure that out, which was supposed to be impossible, which completely changes, a lot of storylines. So she is hugely powerful, and yet we know there are people there. Is it Olivia, who are the Sean Chan, who's even more powerful?
But yeah, she's a Sean Chan, isn't she? She's an ex-Amane.
Yeah, so who's even more powerful, or has more power than even Nynaeve. And the scope of that is huge. But it would be nice to get more of Nynaeve's actual viewpoints, because we've not really had any of her since she married Lan, even though she's been present throughout the last two books.
So interestingly, I just saw a note here, and it's incredibly mild spoiler. However, it says that Winter's Heart and Crossroads of Twilight take place at the same time.
So presumably it's Egwene.
I'm assuming we get more Egwene and Perrin and Fael stuff, because the Perrin and Fael stuff happens at the very beginning of the book, and then we don't really go back to them. We then spend most of the rest of the book with Mat.
Yeah. And
Elaine, yeah.
So presumably next book is Egwene and the Tower and that battle.
That would be good. I would like to see that happen. Yeah.
Desperate to see that happen. That'd be great. I was really looking forward to that in this book, just because we had them, they had their little rest, and then she was like, right, let's travel there, open the pathway. Whole army just, I was like, oh, amazing, we're gonna have this huge like siege or whatever, and like, how's this gonna work? But no.
Well, we also need to be prepared, because Crossroads of Twilight is universally the most disliked book in the series.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going in with very low expectations, and because I'm going in with low expectations, I'm expecting to be surprised. And one of the comments on our last video was like, you guys will probably really like all of the books because you haven't disliked any of the slog books yet. And a lot of people don't like Path of Daggers, because is it Path of Daggers or the one before? Whichever the one is where there's no big story moment.
I think it's probably Path of Daggers. There's not huge, like, you get the bit at the beginning with the Bowl of Winds, and then obviously Rand is betrayed at the end by the Asherman, but that's the main thing,
that's
really,
the main ending is the Asherman betrayal thing, which is not that big of an event. No,
it's not as impactful as the ending of this book. The ending of this book seems huge. So yeah, and also just on the ending, I quite like the sort of not change in style, but the way the last chapter is written, where we get a lot of more short POVs, and we're sort of, because they're all in one place, or they were coming into one place. They're all drawn to the huge surge of power that's flowing through Nynaeve Rand, and we get lots of different short, sharp. This happens. This happens. This happening. Is this happening? Is this happening? And with lots of different characters, and it was nice to sort of bring a lot of the Forsaken into one place because we actually start naming them, not all of them, but actually naming them. And you start to see like how individualistic they are as well, and their own games. But I thought I quite liked the because it just felt like it ramped the speed up of what was happening. Because we had quite a few chapters where it was, three or four chapters of the same character to then have a final chapter which was, a page or a page and a half, and then different and just it really felt like a ramp up of the climax at the end.
And also, Jordan thought he only had 2 books left when he wrote Winter's Heart, because he thought that there was one book after his final. So his final book is Knife of Dreams, which is 11, and he thought 12 was going to be the final book. So in his mind, there's only 3 books left to tell this story, which is why I feel like the cleansing of the male half of the source is like, it feels like the beginning of our path to the last battle, if that makes sense. Apparently, I know I've told you this before, I think, but the last battle, there's a chapter that is called The Last Battle, and it's something like 9 hours on the audiobook and like 400 pages or something insane. So I am very excited for that. And I said to my wife, I was like, I'm going to maybe take the afternoon off work and read it all in one go.
Exactly. I might take a day away. I might go away for a day and come back.
Go sit in a coffee shop until it's done.
So yeah, I am looking forward to the next one. So
having just read a 1,300-page Brandon Sanderson book, I'm very excited for 3 more.
So I think the one thing else about Rand, because we seem to have started on Rand, was around obviously he's now bonded to his 3 lovers,
the sister wives,
whatever we're going to class them as.
This is like my number one complaint with this book, is that storyline is terrible. Fun fact, it is based on a true situation that happened to Robert Jordan while he was at college, where he was studying, and he had 3 girlfriends who all agreed to be his girlfriend. And he eventually married one of them, I think. But like, how insane is he? Everyone's like, man, this is so dumb. Why has he got all these sister wives? And Robert Jordan's like, well, actually.
It's based on a true story. Yeah. This is my life.
It just made me laugh a lot.
That is bizarre. I mean, I find the storyline bizarre. I did find it quite amusing when Elaine had her evening with Rand, and like just the reactions of all the others who are then bonded to her, going, "Oh God," and like Baguette just going, just losing. I need to get absolutely wasted because I can't cope with what's going on here. And then like Alana just like fainting, just 100 miles away, just collapsing because he's bonded with the women. And it's like, I did find that quite amusing. Obviously, Min then seeing that Elaine's going to be pregnant and all these other things going on. I found that quite an amusing part of the book, even though that the whole like 3 wives is just bizarre.
So I'll tell you now. Here's the actual quote. Robert Jordan: when I was much younger, before I met Harriet, I had 2 girlfriends simultaneously who arranged my dating schedule between them. Who was going to date me on which night? They chipped in together to buy me birthday presents, Christmas presents. They just sort of shared me between them. And they've been friends before. I'm not quite sure whether or not they made the decision they were both going to date me or not on their own before they met me. But it just came about. I figured if I could manage 2, surely Rand could manage 3. There are mythological reasons to have these 3 women involved with him. As far as my view on this, with Harriet, I have many more than 3 women. There are so many facets of her personality. She quite often makes me dizzy. I'm quite satisfied there. And about how she feels like this, I suspect you want her answer. I seem to remember her saying to me, "You do remember this is fantasy, right?" And I think it was an accident. She was holding a carving knife to my throat. Just a coincidence, but I'm not sure. Then Harriet is also at this Q&A. Harriet, in 4 short words, I am not for it. 4.5 words.
Oh, that is brilliant.
I like the idea that he's just like an absolute player in college or whatever. And his wife is like, I couldn't be less interested in this.
Yeah, that is pretty exceptional. So,
So there you go. If he can manage 2, surely Ryan can manage 3.
Surely he can. Yeah, I'm still not convinced about storyline, but anyway,
no, I'm not either. I could lose that completely.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like. So, having said that, I quite like his relationship with Min. I think that works. Like their sort of tete-a-tete, the way they work together, works well for me. I do like the fact they're bonded, and we get this impression of like his warmth, like golden glow between them. I think is really nicely done. I do appreciate that, and I think the Elaine Rand element is intriguing because you've got like this really quite strong.
The power dynamic is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. You've got this quite emotional connection they've got together, but then you've got like the politics and the ruling, and like she had to pull down all his banners when she first arrived because she was like, no, the Dragon Reborn didn't put me in power. It's my I'm the rightful queen, etc. So I quite appreciate that. I think the Avienda element of that, and her now being the sister or near sister to Elaine is an odd one. But anyway, I think we said enough on that. Is there anything else on Rand that Ash having with Rand that we haven't?
No, I did think it was interesting that they in Farm Adding, the section there when they're like, oh, there's like a plague going around where people are turning up like blackened and covered in boils, and it's just people being stabbed by Padam Fane. Like it's just Padam Fane creating his own little plague. The cover for the ebook version of Wheel of Time Book 9, which is the one of like Rand holding the Choden Carl cleansing the male side of the Force, is really good. It's like one of the best pieces of art I've seen around Wheel of Time.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. I've not
especially
seen
because the original cover was terrible. I'll send it to you. It's good.
This one is terrible. I mean, why is everyone?
That's Perrin, so by the way, with the blue
why does he look so small?
He looks like a hobbit.
I mean, they might just be giant horses, but everyone just looks weirdly proportioned. Anyway, it's just okay. I'll check out what the ebook looks like.
It's a great cover. I've used the ebook cover a lot for some of the reviews because it's genuinely really good.
You sent it to me. I can see it. Yeah, it looks good.
It's really good, and I think again, it's covering like an actual interesting moment of the story, not the like Perrin stuff, which I would say is very minor. And I guess that's meant to be Morghese and Basil Gill.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of time for Morghese. I think she's really interesting. I've always thought she was good. And I think it's really funny to see her from other people's point of view when you know that she's Morghese. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, she's so imperious. And you're like, well, she is the queen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is really good. I do enjoy that. I do. I just feel like I think the Perrin and File bit just doesn't, and therefore the Morghese bit as well, and the Berylane. Like Berylane just needs to move on and go after somebody else because that's just ridiculous. Anyway,
wild character choice.
Yeah, but like I felt like the Fail being in the Aiel camp, it felt.
Does it feel like giving Fael something to do? Well, like giving Fael and Perrin something to do? Or like a...
Yes, yeah, and I think it felt like because we spent quite a lot of time with the Aiel, I didn't feel there's we seemed to spend a reasonable amount of time with Fael having been captured, I understand, but it didn't feel like it added a huge amount because we'd already spent so much time with the Aiel. So we understand, what the white robes and Toe and all that. The only interesting bit was there from obviously like the sort of the spying on each other within the Shaido sort of wise women could be an interesting development. And then the only bit that was interesting for Perrin was obviously the prophet, and that he's now willing to travel to go and help Fael, but he won't travel to see the person that he's supposed to be the prophet for. And I'm like, well, this guy's not suspicious at all. Let's just bring him along.
Needs to sort his life out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like you say, the Perrin and Fael sections in this book. I do like both characters, and I was invested in the storyline with the Shido a bit more than I am the Prophet stuff.
Yeah.
The Prophet stuff has felt like a bit of a side quest that we didn't really need to go on. If Rand wanted to sort Masema out, he could have just travelled there and been like, "Stop it, Masema, or I'll kill you," and then kill him.
And I think you've hit it nail on the head. It feels like a side quest. Like Rand is obviously the main storyline, absolutely. Matt has got what seems like a proper storyline because the Sean Chan actually seemed like a threat and a power, and he's obviously high linked to them. We'll come on to more about Matt because it was just fabulous to have him back.
Really like the Sean Chan stuff as well.
Yes, yeah. So we'll come to that. Elaine obviously has a power play to it because she's going for the Queen of Andor and her relationship with Rand is good. As Perrin and Fael, I've enjoyed them because they've been separate, but now they feel so separate that they don't feel like part of the main story. And I think your point of a side quest is absolutely spot on. They don't seem, and the Shido don't seem a threat really anymore. Not with the Sean Chan now descending on the world. It feels very other and not engaged in the main plot.
Yeah, I would like to see more. Like, I think Savannah is a super interesting character, and is one of the like grey area villains that I really like in Wheel of Time. We don't often get those sorts of like grey areas. So very good to see that. And I like the idea of like all the internal politics among the Shido that we haven't really had with the other Aiel because they're more aligned. But I don't feel like it feels to me like the Shido are not like Savannah is not really redeemable based on her like what she's doing with the captured people and stuff.
Yep.
So it's very much like, well, if she's not redeemable, why are we not just taking care of her? Maybe Brandon Sanderson. Pardon me. Maybe Brandon Sanderson will make her interesting.
Yeah, maybe again she has more of a point to play. She feels like this little bit on the side. Doesn't feel like make out. I don't see how she impacts the storyline going forward, other than potentially for Fael and therefore Perrin. But again, Perrin is sort of being pushed to the side as well, it seems as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they're brought back and how it all feeds into the main quest. Because at the Shining Little Light, the White Cloaks have just vanished now. They're all done and dusted. We've not had them. I mean, we haven't had Trolloc in the story for about 4 books. It's all been Sean Chan and Forsaken. So, it's interesting how the antagonists have changed as we've gone through in the series, which has been great. But yeah, I think that was a bit. I struggled a bit with the Perrin and Fael bit, and I do like Perrin and Fael, but I just feel their storyline isn't going anywhere.
It feels like the villains of this book have stopped being like, these are demon people that have no feelings and they just want to kill and murder, and they've become like, well, this is a person who follows the same religion as you, but they have a completely different idea about how this religion should be interpreted. Yeah. Like one of the big things with the Sean Chan is that like they believe in the Creathon cycle, they believe in the prophecies of the dragon, they just have a different interpretation.
Yeah.
And same with the wind people, the sea people.
Yeah.
Are they called the Sea People? I don't know what they're called.
Athanmere, the sea folk.
Yeah, the Sea Folk. They've got their own interpretation. Then you look, the Aiel have their own interpretation.
Yeah.
The Andorans have their own interpretation. Loads of really interesting stuff in terms of like looking at religion and being like, these guys are looking at, you know, they're almost looking at the Bible and going like, well, Jesus is back now, but actually the King James Bible says that Jesus should, you know, like support Tottenham Hotspur, whereas like, you know, and that I think that's actually a really interesting tack for Jordan to take that I kind of wasn't expecting early on in the books, and we've come to a point where a lot of the disagreement is like ideological and not isn't so much political. I mean, like, in fact, even I would say the biggest political stuff is like Elida versus Egwene, and that again is quite ideological. Like Egwene's like, I'm going to change stuff. I'm going to do, you know, grow the Aes Sedai, going to take on older apprentices, going to all this sort of stuff. Whereas Elida's like, keep it exactly the same, but make me a palace. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Make me a queen, and let's move on. I think, yeah, no, it's interesting. And like you got like at the ending where they're using the little statues, which I can't remember the name of.
Chodan Karl.
Okay, thank you. I won't remember that again.
I think they're Tirangrial, I think.
Yes, but they obviously attach to the big statues, and we get a scene in like Tremalking, which is the sea folks island off the coast, isn't it? That's like
that's their like homeland or whatever.
And you get like this, I don't know who it is, but basically saying that this is the end of the age of illusion. So it's interesting to see what that actually means for them as well, and obviously the coming of the Coromor. But yeah, no, I think it is interesting to see the different prophecies with different emphases for what Rand is and his role going forward. And we'll come on to that in a bit when we talk about Matt and the Sean Chan. But can I just touch on Elaine before we go?
Would you like to know, by the way, I think we're at the right point now to do our guessing statistical analysis of who's got the most POVs. So who's your guess? Who's your guess of highest POV? Because I was wrong.
I would say Matt.
My guess. You would also be wrong. I thought it was going to be Matt too, but it's actually Elaine. Yeah. I thought Elaine was quite a minimal part of this book, but I wonder if it's because, as we've established before, she's actually one of my favourite characters, and I feel like her chapters go by quite quickly for me. I find her, I liked her initially as the like the almost teenage infatuation with Rand. I thought that relationship was really fun. Like, and then now we've come to this struggle between the like, well, I love him, but also I have this political like need to distance myself, but also I'm, you know, bonded to him and all this sort of stuff that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot going on with their relationship, which I really like. Like, I like the dynamic, but I also like what she's doing, where she's having to try and basically win an election almost to be in charge of the country she should have inherited. So yeah, there's a lot going on with Elaine that I really like, and so maybe that's why it felt like her chapters were quite breezy, so it felt like she's quite short. But yeah, she's 24%, and the next is Matt with 21.
Okay.
But then after that, it really drops down. So Rand is 13%, is the number 3. Then Perrin is 8%.
Okay.
35 chapters, 29 POVs.
So there's not as many POVs as we've had in previous books. Then it's quite. It did feel like we had like blocks of chapters of one character. It did feel like. I think that's maybe Matt's were more blocked.
We had a big block of Matt in the majority of the middle, I would say.
Yeah, as Elaine maybe was a bit more spread out, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I think Elaine's storyline is interesting. I think also one thing that I didn't fully felt a little bit overly elaborate was the attempted assassination of Elaine. Because it's like good. It was good. I was like, I really feared for her. And then she was saved, and then it became like this whole elaborate plot of like just to get this person in her, into her good books and into her trust. We created this whole elaborate plot where we could have actually just killed her and really caused chaos everywhere. But it was more important to get this one person close to her, and I'm assuming that's because they want to get close to Rand. But it just felt very elaborate when you had the opportunity to seemingly cause quite a blow to the potential stability of Andor and the future. And anyway, I just felt that felt a little bit overly elaborate, overly planned. But maybe that's just me being a bit. But I think Elaine's good. I think now she's pregnant as well. I think that adds to it. So I mean, I have no scale of how long these books, what sort of time period these books are going to be over now.
Yeah.
Do we end up with a baby or not? Will be interesting to see. And what if we do have a baby, what abilities, capabilities that baby has, and what impact that has on the relationships. This very strange grouping of everybody in love with Rand, but now he's got a child. The impact of that could be quite interesting.
Isn't Elaine going to have twins? And Avienda's going to have 4?
Yeah, there was a lot of kids. Yeah. I can't remember exact numbers, but yeah, there was a lot of children being bandied about at that point. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know whether Min said she was going to have kids. I think maybe she did. I think Rand's going to have a lot of children via his 3 wives. Yeah, I like the idea of us seeing Rand as a parent, but I feel like with the way that he has been in these books, maybe also that could be the taint on Saidin. Like as we said, he's been slowly going mad through all of these books. It'd be interesting to see how Jordan writes him as someone who is sane. That will be genuinely really interesting. That's obviously the next big thing. But yeah, again, on Elaine, I thought that I liked a lot of the stuff going on with Elaine in this book because I like Elaine. And I'm interested to see how her kind of like challenge for Andor pans out. I feel like that's kind of a big thing. The dark friend who is now her head of guards. Again, that character actually I thought was quite interesting. The way like when they were introduced, I was like, this guy seems sus, and then he was.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I just felt this whole plot felt quite elaborate. In the sense of you actually had the opportunity to kill her. You'd done everything, and then you just sacrifice a load of pawns to get someone closer to her. I don't know. I'm sure it will play out over the next few books, but yeah, I just felt it was more elaborate when you had a chance to strike and just have done and cause more chaos with no obvious queen of Andor, and obviously Rand wanted her, and you've scuppered his plans, even if you're not aware of the closeness of their relationship. So it's something. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. But no, I'm interested how that continues with Elaine. But as Robert Jordan does, and we've done the same, we've kept everybody waiting until we get to our favourites, Matt, as Jordan did for a book and a half. We'll keep them waiting for half a video before we get on to Matt.
I feel like we've been recording for quite a while.
It does. Coming
to the end.
Well, exactly. So we just leave Matt till next time, shall we?
Yeah. No, that's Robert Jordan for 6 books. I know this is dumb, but I'd forgotten all about him being crawled under the wall. So when he turned up and he was like, "Oh yeah, I got caught under that wall," I was like, "Did that happen in between books? Like what?" And I had to look it up.
Sam, that was his last scene.
I enjoyed that he is still injured, and because the Aes Sedai medallion thing is stopping people from healing him, he's not healing, which I thought was really interesting. I loved the Sean Chan stuff. I think the Sean Chan stuff's been really well handled. Like Thailand becoming like governor underneath the Sean Chan, I thought was really interesting, and like seeing the like Sean Chan politics was cool. And I do like Tuon. I think Tuon is an interesting character, although they do seem like they're 14, and Matt is like a grown man, so that is odd.
Yeah, I would agree with that final point. I think in the previous video we were really keen to get more Sean Chan and get more understanding, because we had that very little bit with the general in the Sean Chan army in the previous book, and then he died. But I was really interested in learning a bit about the Rakan and the Torakan, or whatever they're called, the flying beasts, and we get more of that through like Suroth and Tuon, and Tuon's like truthsayer, who just basically just lays into her.
It's very
saying,
funny
you're
concept.
Absolute idiot, and put it together, and maybe you should go to bed now because you're just making a fool of yourself. Which I found fascinating. But I do quite like we gained a bit of insight into that, more insight into the politics. And as you say, like Thailand sort of trying to take on certain affectations of the appearance of the Sean Chan, with like the painted long fingernails and such like.
And she says she's going to shave her head, doesn't she? She's like, "Oh, I'm going to shave the side of my head or something." Like they have different head shavings for different ranks. It seems like there's a lot of like thought paid to like station in their society. Like I'm ranked above this person, they're ranked above this person, which I thought was really interesting as well. And I like seeing that. I was just going to say, I like that Ebudar just seems to be the same. Like that Altara is completely occupied and run by the Sean Chan, and like aside from not being able to get a good room and a decent inn, it's basically the same.
Yeah, it's sort of that sort of just a new colonizers come in and the country runs the same. Like it's interesting because it made me think about sort of the history of England, and like you go back to like William the Conqueror and how the French basically came over and conquered, or they were from Normandy, not France per se, but and conquered, and they basically just became like the ruling elite, but everyone still spoke English. Like French didn't become the language. We still have some French words in it, but it's like it's a similar thing here, where you've got like the Sean Chan have come in and they've taken up the hierarchy of the system. They're basically ruling, but the common folk are still using the same language, doing the same things. Nothing's really changed. They're just paying homage to this new enforcing power over the top. So it's a fascinating way to sort of see how he's written that in and how that develops. I really enjoyed that, and I think Thailand is, obviously her relationship with Matt is weirdly problematic, and continues to be so, but he's finally getting away. So I just, but I think what Jordan's done is actually quite disruptive and unique in the fact that he has just switched the roles. Like it would be quite normal is probably the wrong word, but it would not seemingly unusual for a man being someone in like great power taking advantage of someone with less power, or with less power. But you get that throughout in parts of the story. And I recognized it more probably because I was looking for it. But there's parts where like there's a group of women talking business, and they basically stop because a man walks in. They go, "Oh, you won't understand. Don't worry." It's
that's farmadding, isn't it? Where it's
this is
matriarchal society to the extreme.
Yeah, this is women. This is women's talk. But you can see like the exact reverse happening. Oh, don't worry. You go back to like, well, probably even nowadays, but previous, history. You go back to like, I don't know, Georgian or Victorian, is like all the men chatting around with their drinks and Brandon and getting, oh, don't worry, this is man's talk. It's like exactly the same. And Matt gets his bottom pinched at some point out in the street, and it's just like this like role reversal in that sense is an interesting concept. Doesn't make it any less problematic, but it is an interesting concept to see that flipped on its head. So, but yeah, but then we've got Matt basically kidnapping his future wife, which doesn't seem like the best start to a relationship, but she seems to be smiling about it. So
she seems into it.
Yeah. So I just wonder if there's something she knows that we're not aware of yet.
Well, he says out loud, doesn't he? He's like, "Well, she's my wife."
Yeah, not even she's going to be. She is.
I really enjoyed that. That made me like chuckle a bit. And like all the other people there were like, "Bro, she's like the Sean Chan princess. Like you can't just be like, she's my wife. I'm taking her with me."
So yeah, that was
excited to see how that continues.
Yeah, because I'm really curious how that relationship now develops. Because obviously she was like lurking around him in the palace, and, like popping up regularly. But yeah, there's still it is an odd start to their relationship. So we will see how that goes. Obviously, there's a couple of other things with Matt, like the colours he sees when he thinks of Rand. I don't know what that is, but it seems odd. That is,
yeah.
Is that something that like meaning that he needs to get nearer to Rand? Is that pulling towards him?
It's interesting because it feels like it's doing the opposite. It feels like it's pushing him away from them. But obviously, as the Taviran, they're supposed to gather together because that's happened before. Is that Rand and Perrin and Matt have felt like they have to be together.
Yeah. So what is this? Yeah, it was interesting because it happened a few times. It was like I'm not sure what this is telling me or why we've got this drive, but there's something happening there, which is strange.
And what's the name of the old fella? The guy that he like recruits into his band?
No.
Yeah, he seems like he's going to be interesting. He's got a lot of good lines. And he seems really important in this book. Like he's more important than like Vannon, who's like his best mate, the fat horse thief, which is a very funny character. Like it's like, oh, what did you used to do? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. And you're like, you were a horse thief, Vannon. We all know you were a horse thief.
Yes, we worked in horses. Yes,
I was a farrier. Sure, mate. Sure.
This
funny character.
Because obviously Noel just turns up because obviously the Golem returns, and like the Golem just seems very random as well. Like I'm not quite sure how he found Matt there. Like he found I can understand like he was following the magic for others, but obviously Matt doesn't channel as far as we're aware. So anyway, be fun. But what I really enjoyed is where he then basically shrunk down and disappeared to a little hole in the block. And I don't know whether you ever watched X-Files.
Yeah, I got very much a Mark Hamill episode, isn't it?
It's the Victor Toombs. Where he just stretch his body and go through. It got very big like Victor Toombs vibes. I was like, yeah, that's pretty creepy. But then this Noel guy, or no, I think it's Noel, just turns up out of nowhere. This old guy, and then he's like, he then just sort of brought into the group, and like becomes like a key member of the group, and it's like, is no one suspicious of this guy just randomly turning up and helping out? It is Noel, yeah. I was just like, what? Who is he? What is he doing? Why is he? Because there's also like there's a bit right at the beginning where they first meet where he's calling out, or you hear someone calling out something like down here or down the street, and it's just him. But there's something about Noel says something I didn't expect many people to understand that language. So was he just using like the old tongue? Because Matt obviously understands it, and presumably the Golem understood it. So who is this? Who is this guy? And where's he come from? So that was
interesting.
I'm really curious about this. Yeah, who he is and where he's coming from on that front. But it was great having Matt chapters. Other than the first two books, where I think we agree he's dreadful, because he's under the influence. But he is great. It was great to have him back. I was relieved to see his chapters. He's got some interesting things happening in and around him, which is always entertaining. You've obviously got Julian and Tom, who again have very bit part cameos in this again. And I'm not sure I'm ever going to get my Tom and Morgaze confrontation getting back together, whatever's going to that seems further away than ever at the moment.
Yeah. But interesting that Gareth Bryn, who was Morgaze's lover, right? Or there's something going on with Morgaze.
I think, yeah. Certainly got the impression. I mean, it feels that probably was the case at some point.
He switched over to Thingy now.
Yeah.
To,
Fish Lady.
Yeah. The fisherman's wife.
Swan Sanche.
Swan Sanche, yeah.
Yeah.
No Swan Sanche fish jokes this whole book.
Yeah, well, no White Tower stuff at all. So I know time's probably getting on. I don't know how long we've been chatting. There's a couple other things. Obviously, Bail Domon is back.
Yeah,
that was
great. Knew he'd be back.
Yeah, we knew he'd be back, and obviously the black
Robert.
Obviously, the black Adam wasn't thrown in the sea. Shock! What a shock that was. And interestingly, Lady Saroth has it, which did lead me to think, because obviously in their prophecy, there's a bit about Rand basically bending the knee to his crystal throne. They're like, well, does the black Adam play a role within that to make him bend the knee?
Feels like that's where we're going, right?
It does feel that way, yeah, absolutely. Because why else? And then what is Tuon's and Matt's part of that then? And who is on the crystal throne at that point? Is it the Empress, where she lived forever, or is it her daughter who's taken over?
Is it the Empress who has not lived forever?
I'm sure they just reincarnate into the next person who's already alive. Who knows? And the other person I had a question mark over, which we haven't spoken about, which we probably should have done earlier, is I still have a question mark over, is Verin. What is she up to? Because there's a point in here where she was about to drug Cadsuane.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh no, Cadsuane's all right. She's going to tell me stuff now anyway. I'm like, okay, but what is, because like, I remember right from like book 1 maybe, where she gave the ring to Angriel to Egwene. Yeah, Egwene. And like, but she didn't pass on all like the notes and the warnings and all that. She's like, what is a game? It still triggers. There's something not quite right there, and I haven't quite figured it out. And she was like doing this with the Aes Sedai prisoners of the Aiel. She was doing some sort of like persuasion or something, not quite persuasion, but there's something going on there as well. So Verin, I'm still very curious about Verin and what her game is. And obviously she was at Farm Adding as well. And she was very curious about certain things going on, and she's playing games, etc. So I just, yes, Verin, I'm very curious about where she goes.
Yeah, and like you say, because she's from Farm Adding, and also, doesn't she mention that she's like a criminal in Farm Adding? She's going under an assumed name.
She goes under. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I've forgotten that bit. Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's under assumed name because she's obviously under warrant for whatever, back in or banished from Farm Adding. Yes, absolutely. No, that I just So I'm really curious to learn more about Verin, I think. So I think that's all my notes. My nicely well prepared scribbled notes, everybody, that I've finally worked on the back of an envelope, literally. So yes, I think we're all there. So what's going to happen in the next book then? So
I think that we're gonna. I mean, we know we've mildly spoiled ourselves by knowing that it's kind of not concurrent, but like, well, it says it's concurrent. So I think that there is going to be a lot of fallout from the cleansing of the male half of the Source. It'd be interesting to see how this affects Logain, who we know has got the halo in Min's vision. So is this person with his, if he's got the halo, is that, is there something going on there? Like, I'm hoping that there is definitely something happening in terms of, hoping there's something happening in terms of like what's going on with these characters.
Yeah, because he's also got because obviously the Aes Sedai who attacked sort of basically kissed them, and that was his form of persuasion.
Yeah.
To sort of fall under his will. So yeah, I think that it'd be interesting to see what he is and Mazrim Taim and their relationships, obviously in the same place as well, and how they sort of see each other off potentially. I think we've got to have the White Tower. I think this is why it's probably concurrent, because whatever's going on in the White Tower, we've not heard anything about it, but presumably it's happening because literally the last book finished. Well, not quite, but towards the end of that book, they basically all travelled there. So whatever was happening during this book, presumably. So I assume there'll be a lot of White Tower activity, hopefully, and we'll see who comes out on top. Because Elida's obviously had this vision of her being victorious in some way, and she had this foresight of success. But so I'd be curious to see how that works out.
Definitely. I think that my theory is we are going to see the Elida Egwene stuff come to a head this book. And I think the vision, if you read it, I think the vision actually is portraying Egwene's going to win, because it's like, oh, White Tower will be reunited, and you're like, well, yeah, because I feel like Egwene's going to win. I think if you read the actual thing that she talks through,
it's more ambiguous.
I would say it's not ambiguous.
Oh, okay.
It's the other way. I wonder if there's an Elida section. I wonder if I could find it, because I know chapter 25 she is. Right, let's find chapter 25. Let's get the quote, because I bet you that some smart person will have put a quote in here. Sadly, no one has done it.
No smart people.
No. Maybe it's not that section then. Maybe it's a previous chapter that it's in. I thought it was in the previous book, but maybe it's even further back.
Yeah, it could be further back. I don't remember. So, but yeah, because I think so. That's what I think. I think we'll probably get more Perrin Fail. Maybe that will come to her. Maybe she'll be rescued. Maybe she won't. I don't know. Maybe that'll drag on a bit longer. But you got to feel. Okay, you found it. Gone.
The White Tower will be whole again, except for remnants cast out and scorned, whole and stronger than ever. Randall Thor will face the Amelin seat and know her anger. The Black Tower will be rent in blood and fire, and sisters will walk its grounds. This I foretell. That does not sound ambiguous to me. That sounds
I absolutely agree with you on that. Yeah, so that is probably Elida and whoever else being thrown out in their small little party. The Black Tower in Blood and Fire is interesting, because now the Melhouse has been cleansed, is that Aes Sedai causing that? Aes Sedai walking through, or is that Logain destroying it?
I think
his Aes Sedai walking through.
Logain versus Time. I think that could be it. And Logain being on Rand's team. And it says sisters will walk their grounds. There's already sisters at the Black Tower, right?
Yeah.
Kidnapped.
But it's not in flames.
Captured.
But yeah. But yeah, so he's captured. So I think Logain captured him. But hasn't Taim got some Damani? Or has he dropped them all off now? Like there was.
There's something going on with Damani that I can't remember.
But, yeah, so maybe there's a battle there between Taim and Logain. And my money's on Logain winning because of Min's vision with his Aes Sedai, and that feeds into that one. Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, we don't need to read anymore, Sam. We figured it all out.
Nailed it.
Let's see how wrong we are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so you're starting it tomorrow. Is that your plan? Or
well, I'm currently reading an indie book, which I'm hoping to finish Monday, maybe.
Okay.
and then I'll be starting it straight away. So we've got some good timing going on.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm not sure how much reading I'm going to get over Christmas because we're traveling around with
Same.
family.
Going to do a lot of family visits.
Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, no, I'm looking. And you say this is the worst of the 15 books, and then after that we've got the prequel. Yes.
That is what people think is that this one's the worst one, and yes, the prequel is next.
Crossroads.
I think a lot of the point of views of like the prequel isn't very good is because people were really hoping it would nail it after disliking the Crossroads of Twilight, and I think that's where a lot of the poor opinion comes from.
Okay.
So I'll be interested to see whether that actually pans out for us and how we feel about it.
Yeah, yeah. I say I've not felt. I wouldn't have called the last two books a slog. I don't think they're strong. I think we've had some really strong books. I think the ending of this book is immense, and there's enough that happens in the book to keep it entertaining. I think there's a few bits that are just feels a bit drifty and maybe a bit, and maybe they'll feed into something else later on. Who knows? But we will find out. But no, I'm enjoying it so far. We've just got the Crossroads of Twilight, but it's a bigger one again now, isn't it?
Let's have a look. So Winter's Heart is, where are we? 780 pages. Crossroads of Twilight is 846.
Okay, that's your paperback, isn't it? My hardback is 601.
Yeah, the original American print was 846. I don't know actually how much. My paperback's very much on the shelf. I haven't even got it out yet.
So, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. Okay, right. We got another 70, 80 page prologue to get through.
I feel like I saw someone say the prologue is more than 10% of the book this time.
Yeah, it would be.
Which is very funny every time it happens.
Yeah, because we had one book with no prologue, didn't we?
Yeah,
that
but then
really
chapter 1 was just the prologue by any other name, wasn't it? So
yeah, it was very odd. When is a prologue not a prologue?
Yeah.
Oh, there's even an epilogue in this one.
Ooh, we don't get those very often.
No, there you go.
Oh wait,
it's only a page, 2 pages.
I was just saying, have we had an epilogue before? I can't remember one.
I feel like yes, but maybe just one. It feels like I've got a feeling we've had one, but I honestly am guessing, if I'm honest with you there, Sam.
I have to think about it.
Yeah, we shall see and find out. But no, this was a good one, and I look forward to reading the worst book in the Wheel of Time.
Me too. I genuinely think it will be fun. Let's close this bad boy out, and Matt and I can both go to bed because it's late here in the UK. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Please do chat with us about Winter's Heart and any previous books in the Wheel of Time, but no future books. We don't want any discussion of how terrible Crossroads of Twilight is. Thanks so much for watching, and please obviously like the video and subscribe, and we will speak to you probably next year by now. Goodbye.